100 Season 2, Episode 8, Spacewalker. Unfortunately, I kind of thought of this last week when we had, the episode leading up to this one. Was like the one thing they wanted was Finn. And I talked about this for a good bit of my review last time. It had been a long time since we lost a character in the 100, especially a main character, because the first person to go was actually Jaha's son in episode 3 or 4. And I mentioned like that's one of the things with this show. They take things seriously, and in situations like this, you kind of have two options. You either have like beautifully written, amazing, mind-boggling, great writing, or you have crappy writing, and the character just escapes somehow, and it's like, all right, either it's unbelievably great or it sucks because it doesn't make sense. And then sometimes in situations like this, you have that third option where the unbelievably good writing is just logic. It's like a situation like this. You have these characters who, the grounders, they have been established as these hardcore people. They aren't just gonna, flip this script. Sometimes you can talk to people, sometimes you can't. And, it would have been good, of course, if we did see Clark actually save Finn, because she turned like the commander on her people, like to say like, I'm strong because I don't have to kill this guy. That would be interesting if that did happen and they saved him, and then in like the next episode it kind of ruined the whole truce. At least for like a couple episodes they were in like a full out war because they did kill off the commander, and Indra kind of did come in and take over, because it's like, she's the forceful one compared to the commander, who is far more lenient than most other characters that we've seen as far as the grounders go. But unfortunately that wasn't the case in this episode, and we lost Finn. And I think it was a great send-off episode for his character. We got to see a really cool backstory. Like the whole flashback was literally like, this is a part of the series. Like, this is why this character is who he is. This is why he's in this situation right now. This is how he went to jail. This is how he got to Earth, and why this is the one decision that changed his life and sent him down this path that unfortunately got him killed. And it was just really interesting, and it was amazing to see like the whole thing, like him being the spacewalker and this and that. It's not even real. It wasn't even him. He actually did that to save Raven, and he did it as a birthday present to her, because initially she didn't think that she would be able to go out and walk in space, because she felt the physical test. And it's like, man, I love this girl, I'd do anything for her. So he stole the suit, he got her the name, and it really sucks. It's like such a minor thing that really could have happened. It probably would have happened to whoever the next person was. When you think about it, it really wasn't their fault that there was a breach in the seal or anything. It's like, the door didn't close all the way. That's literally not my fault. I didn't make the door. So it's just one of those weird things. Like, if it happened, the engineering people or whatever did go out that next day, the exact same thing would have happened, because it had nothing to do with the procedures. He did everything he was supposed to do. The door closed. It just didn't close right, and it just happened to be that one time. And it was just great to see. I thought it was interesting to get that dynamic of Finn and Raven together, and getting to see them when they were together, and before things kind of changed for him, or both of them really, and he went to jail. And once again, it was what led Raven to end up going down to Earth long before everyone else did on the Ark, and it would have just a huge dynamic for the show. And it was really great, and it sucked to see the character go. Personally, and I mentioned this because it was like ramping up to things. It's like, I don't, with this show, you don't know what's gonna happen. So I was kind of reflecting on the character, like, I like his character. Principle wise, he cheated on his girlfriend. That kind of sucks, and dumb stuff he shouldn't have done. But I did like his character. He tried to help people. He tried to, he was, like, as they mentioned in this episode, he was like the very first person to really go to the grounders, specifically Lincoln, to try to make things better between them and try to bond everybody together. And unfortunately, it didn't work outside of Lincoln. But he was the first one who tried, and I think that's one of the interesting dynamics that they do mention, because he was the first one who did try, and then he was the first one who really did something just so bloody and, just crazy compared to some of the other stuff that happened, which was like war-based stuff. The thing with the, in the season finale where they were all fighting to protect themselves, that was very different compared to what Finn did in the camp where he killed a bunch of people, already cowering in fear because he has like a machine gun held to them. So it was just really interesting. It was a great sort of contrast from like his first action to really his last action with the Grounders, and that just a huge dynamic that changes how certain characters see him. And unfortunately, everyone had to deal with the repercussions of that. And it's not always just a simple solution where you can just talk your way out of it. But it was a great episode. Sucks to see him go, like I said, but I did enjoy this episode. It was a really good one. It was a nice mid-season finale. It was a nice send-off for the character. I did enjoy it. I don't know how much it's really going to change the show. It'll be interesting to see because Finn was one of the main characters. Like when the show like very first started, there were like four characters that were like the main people, and it was like Clark, Finn, Bellamy, and Octavia really were like the four people, and Wells was like the fifth person. Then he died off. He was like in the initial posters, we saw Wells, and then he got killed off, and it kind of dropped it down. And I was like, okay, these are like the four main people, like the top four. If you did it like tiers or whatever, these are like the top four people. You of course have like Clark is number one, but like right under her is like Finn, Bellamy, and Octavia are like the next three main characters, and we just lost one of them. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe Raven will fill that void. She's of course become, a much more prominent character. Of course, we have like Murphy and Jasper and Monty are very important characters, especially considering they're kind of like the two leads as far as the entire Mount Weather storyline is like them, since they're actually trapped in there. But there's just a hole now as far as the tiers, and it's kind of interesting to see what's gonna happen next. I mean, they have their peace treaty. He is dead, and honestly, with what Clark did when she killed him herself, it could still cause a riot. Like, that's not what they wanted. They wanted to do it their way. They wanted to torture him and set him on fire and like chop his hands off and take his eyes out. All of that crazy, insanely gory stuff. That's what they do. That's their tradition. You kill this many people, then you'll suffer as much as they did, or for each person. And she kind of made it quick. She made it very easy and simple for him to die, comparatively speaking. And everyone was up in arms, and of course they had to listen to their commander at that point. But like I mentioned before, if she did manage to talk down the commander and then everyone was super pissed that Finn got to leave, that could easily still be the case. And we'll have to wait. Unfortunately, I saw this online, so I wasn't able to see the preview, so I don't really know what's going to happen or what hints we've been given. But that could easily still happen. They could still be really up in arms. They could still say, yes, he's dead, but not only did we not get to torture him, but none of us even got to kill him. It was one of his own people that did it. It wasn't like one of us just couldn't handle ourselves and like stabbed him in the heart or something. It was just one of the outsiders, really. So they still have a lot of things that they could easily bring up and say, like, screw this, like, we can't really follow our commander if she's not going to be mad like we are. And we as the people are mad, and you're just kind of one individual. Even if you're the commander, we can kind of take you out and then have someone more like-minded take your place. So they could easily still do that, and it could cause some infighting, at least for a little bit. You never know how they might decide to split up the Grounders if they do happen to go that route, where maybe Indra is like too angry and she kind of riles up the people because she has that type of power, and she decides to go up against the commander, and then the commander has her people that still follow her, which would probably be the guy that was in this episode and who was the one that was with Kane and Jaha when they were in the prison and stuff like that. So he'd probably be on her side and a couple other people, and then we'd have Indra and like her people, and they can still do that, like I said. But it'll be very interesting to see how the dynamic continues throughout the rest of this season. Like, it's just a loss that they had to deal with. They may have avoided war. I hope they did, because it would suck to see any other characters go. And even if it's like fodder characters, and I think that's one of the things this show does do well. Even when it's characters that we don't know, they always kind of do it in a way where it's like, dang, that really sucks. Like in the first season, not so much, because it was literally just like sheer mayhem, and like people would just die like left and right in the first season. But in this one, now that everything's kind of building to sort of a triangle of society, like the Grounders, the people from the Ark, and then Mount Weather. Now that we've had that, it's much less like crazy gore where it's just like, all right, someone just like throws a blade and like, it flies into someone's brain or something crazy. It's much less of that. It's more building on the characters. We get to see, what's going on with different tribes and the, Mount Weather and the people from the Ark and the Grounders and how everyone's interacting with each other. And we don't get as many deaths as we did in season one. So when it does happen, even when it's random people, it's like this was a serious thing. Just like in the episode where they saved the one girl who's like hanging off a cliff. Honestly, I don't even remotely remember that one guy's name, but he fell off a cliff trying to save that girl, and that's like a big deal to me because it's like he tried to save her, and he completely died. Like he just fell off and died, and it's like that kind of sucks because he was, at least in 2 episodes he had like a minor focus at least. And even if it's a minor character or even someone we've never seen, just like all those people in the village, aside from like the one guy whose son was killed, we didn't see any of those people before, but it was an important moment that happened. So that's one of the things I like about this show, when they kill people off, at least this season specifically, because like I said, the first one was the first season, and it was like it fit for the season. I don't think it was stupid like, oh, they just killed a bunch of people. It made perfect sense because it was like the Grounders had no idea who the kids were, and it's just like enemies, let's kill them. So it made perfect sense. And in this, they have a much better understanding, so they don't necessarily just go, boom, we have to kill all these people. So it makes perfect sense that there isn't nearly as much death. So when it does happen, it has a much greater impact. And of course, if it's a main character like in this episode, it's ridiculously huge. But that's one of the big things I like. And they could easily have that great impact where a lot of people from the camp do end up dying off. A lot of the Grounders end up being killed. And then, who knows, after that craziness goes down, Mount Weather could just be like, all right, let's just stroll in here and just start shooting people for whatever reason, like to do whatever we want. So I don't know how things are really going to go for the rest of the season. I'm, of course, incredibly excited. Once again, it always sucks to see a character go. This is like the second mid-season finale this year where like someone actually died. So that kind of sucks too. It's like, oh, I lost like 2 characters from shows. But great mid-season finale. I'm very excited to see how things go with this peace treaty that they have. I mean, like I mentioned, I think the big catalyst that is going to be an issue will be Indra, because they kind of officially established it in this episode where it's like Abby didn't go meet the commander. She went to meet Indra because she's the one who really has a lot of pull. She has that ferocious grounder personality like most of the other grounders do, because if the commander was dead and it was Indra in charge, Clark would have been toast. Like, she wouldn't have been like, it's done. She would have pulled out the little knife she had on Abby and she would have stabbed her right in the stomach and just killed her. It would have been as simple as that for Indra. So I think that's going to be a big catalyst coming up for the second half of this season. But even if it's not, I'm very excited to see how things go. We didn't get any of Mount Weather, which I wouldn't have expected. That would have taken away from the big point of this episode, which was focusing on Finn and his relationship with Raven in the past as well as in the present. They kind of had a moment in this episode where she was like, crappy stuff happens. You did a crappy thing to me. We can let it slide. And I even love the fact that Finn was like, you shouldn't have let me off so easy. I actually really enjoyed that. But things kind of came to an end, and we got to see that. We didn't see Mount Weather in this one, and they're saving that for a reason, because things are going down. Who knows who's gonna really live or die in Mount Weather with all the crazy. That's like the espionage portion of the series. Honestly, it's like Monty and Jasper and their little group. They're sneaking around. They caught the one girl the last time we saw them, so most likely she's dead already, or they'll show her dead or dying in this next episode we get where they focus on Mount Weather. But I'm very excited for the second half of this season. It's going to be an interesting, full-on war, which I don't know if we'll officially get in this season. They might still kind of be ramping up to it. There might be little moments here and there. But I do think that with Finn dying and the commander still in charge at least, we'll be able to see this peace treaty take form. And it might still take a couple episodes. I'm sure they'll do it that way, and they'll still have the issues for a little bit, like, a lot of my people are mad that you killed your own guy and we didn't get to do what we wanted to do. But I'm sure they'll deal with that in maybe an episode or two, and then they'll officially decide like, all right, let's band together, take on Mount Weather, and then we'll get to really see a crazy war. Because who knows how that's gonna play out. But I can't wait to see it. Of course, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. Of course, the big question is, you know, if you could save Finn, would you? Do you care that he died? Do you not care? Do you think it was a fitting end? Not a fitting end. Did you like the flashbacks? Not like the flashbacks? Everything about Finn based stuff. That's pretty much the whole question. The character in general. Did you like him? Were you sad that he was gone, or I guess is gone? Do you wish he was still around? If you could have switched places, if you could have taken out Finn, would you put anyone else in? Would you have preferred if they did kill off Murphy? Because I think that was a really nice moment in the episode with Raven, and it was really cool. It's like, man, that's pretty harsh, but it's kind of like evil genius style. Like, hey, I know I kind of hate you. We all kind of hate you, but I do need your help. I want to help protect Finn. And he's like, sure. And then it's like, boom, I tricked you because, I don't give a crap about you. So, if you're in that situation, would you have done the same thing? Not being in that situation, would you prefer if it was Bellamy, or do you not care? And they just like, all right, Finn's gone, I'm great. But for me personally, I just like to have all the characters in there, but sometimes that just boring. That can just make a show kind of boring. So I enjoyed it for what it was. Sucks to see a character go always, especially when it's one that's actually important to the series, like a main character. But I did enjoy the episode. Of course, like I said, I want to know what you guys think, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.